Hello everybody, welcome to Lazio Lounge. Lazio-Bologna just finished, and so we're going to talk about this match. As you can see from the noise, it's Alistair McKenzie coming back from the stadium. I think the weather is not great there. Alistair, how are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks. No, the weather's not been good. Well, the thing is, it has been good on almost every day apart from the days that Lazio have played on. Because obviously the Coppa Italia night, it was terrible, and then tonight it's been terrible as well. So, but yeah, there's another chance tonight to see the Coppa Italia trophy being paraded, and everyone was in quite good mood despite it being a bit of a ridiculous match.
Shall we start from Bastos? I think we have to.
Oh. What have I been saying all these years?
Yeah, we don't need Ciro Immobile anymore. We play Bastos.
I'm telling you, the guy is a striker in disguise. I mean, I've been waiting for a moment like this, as you know, for so long. We've seen him do it in training, all these videos of him smashing in goals in training. But yeah, that was the first time that he's done anything like that in a match. And it was phenomenal. I mean, I was actually a bit shocked afterwards. It was one of those kind of moments where you realise something you've always wanted to see has just happened. It was amazing.
Unbelievable. And the most strange thing is he was looking for that. It's not that, he tried it and the ball went there. I thought he really was looking for putting the ball right there, and he was unbelievable. And after that, he continued pushing. I think he's going to play next year instead of Lulic, left wing.
Well, it was one of those, it did feel like an end of season game, didn't it? It was, especially from Lazio's perspective, I thought that it felt a bit like the brakes were off a bit, and obviously Inzaghi tinkered with his team a bit. It was a bit more experimental, and everyone just seemed to be a bit more willing to kind of give things a go. I doubt that Bastos would have even attempted that in a high pressure match, and we probably wouldn't have wanted him to. But yeah, I mean, like you say, his close control actually before that was better than we've seen from Immobile for quite a long time. And it must be so frustrating for Immobile that a match like this happens, which is incredibly end-to-end open match, 3 goals scored, and he comes away from it, and Bastos has scored a goal like that, and he still hasn't. But he had his chances as well tonight, Immobile.
Yeah, he had I think 3 in the first half at least, and he was a little bit unlucky because the one that just went wide, I thought it was out of a couple of centimeters, so was really unlucky. But in general, you can feel that he's always in a hurry when he has the chance to score. He is not calm, obviously, because he wants it badly, and the fact that he hasn't scored recently is just putting extra pressure on him, and this is when you don't perform as well as you should. So.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I think he's got all the kind of body language of a player who's lost his confidence. When you say he's always in a hurry, I'm not too sure, but I think it's actually one extreme or the other at the moment with him, where he either kind of hurries himself, or he takes a bit too long, and you can see him kind of trying to work things out on the ball and make sure that he makes the right decision, and often waits too long when he would be better off taking a quick decision, and sometimes vice versa. But yeah, it's just something's not working for him at the moment, and it's funny because we've got these 2 strikers up front, Correa and Immobile, and one of them probably can't wait for the season to end so he can have a rest and try again next time. And the other one is probably cursing his luck that the season's ending just as he's finding his best form. because Correa at the moment is absolutely flying.
Well, I don't think it's just now. It's been, the last couple of months that he's playing really great. The problem with Correa is that he had an unbelievable first half, but pretty much disappeared in the second half. And the problem is that at the moment, when Correa doesn't play well, Lazio doesn't play great football, like it happened in the second half tonight.
Yeah, and then the extra complication tonight, of course, was that there wasn't really an option on the bench because Caicedo and Neto were both unavailable. So I suppose you had Capani.
Yep.
I mean, there wasn't really anyone you could look to on the bench as an alternative to bring on and kind of help that situation. But yeah, but that's kind of what I mean with Correa, is that the last couple of months, month and a half, has been his best form in a Lazio shirt, and he's also managed to start turning around the one main criticism of him, which has been that people have said he's not been clinical enough, and his shot conversion rate this season has been pretty poor. But then half of his goals this season have come in the last month. So I think from his perspective, he probably wants to keep playing games right now. And actually, from that matter, I know you mentioned it before that you were a bit worried about him featuring at the Copa America, but actually I think that could be great for him, because if he's in form like this, I think you want him to just keep playing football.
Yeah, but maybe he gets too much. He gets noticed too much, and someone comes and buy him. Anyway, you always have to think about these things. But I think he played well, so I think the next step now is to play 90 minutes. It never happened to see him playing 90 minutes at this level. Always 45, 30, things like that. He needs to improve to become, the players we all hoping to see. Alistair, I want your thought about Guido Guerrieri, because he was starting finally today, and I have mixed emotion about him, so I want to hear your point of view.
Yeah, he was at fault for the first goal, no doubt about it. There were a few other things. I think that the first goal rattled him a bit, and it's a real shame, because I thought the first half was a good kind of confidence builder of a half for him. He didn't have an awful lot to deal with, but he made one good save, and he dealt with a couple of awkward crosses and things. But Poli should never be scoring from that angle. The reason he does is that Guerrieri anticipates that he's going to pull it back and he's going to cross, and I think that's the kind of mistake that you'll find you can't really get away with at this level. That the players you come up against are clever enough to see and anticipate the movement of a goalkeeper. I'm not sure if that's what Poli was doing, because he might have just put his head down and hit it as hard as he could, but I think that was a bad mistake. I don't think it's a bad enough mistake to say that that's it for Guerrieri. I think it's always harsh to judge any player on one performance, but I do feel especially bad for him because it's been 7 years since his first call up to the senior team. So he's been waiting for this moment a long time, and I hope it's not remembered as being a disaster, because I don't think it was a disaster. Just think there's definitely certain things he would benefit with a bit more game time to improve, probably.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a disaster. I was really looking forward to see him playing, because when he was in Primavera, he was considered a star. He was considered much better than Strakosha, for example. And then things didn't go that way. And so I was hoping to see him play today and, have a very good performance from him. As you said, first half very good. Second half, that mistake cost him. And the other thing is, in the second half, Bologna shot on target 3 times, and 3 times they scored. Now you can say that it wasn't all his fault, but you want to see something from him. I thought he made a couple of very good save when he ran out of the box and anticipate. I don't know if it was Destro or someone else. That was good. But after today, I think he needs to go on loan and play, because he's 23. He's not that young anymore, and you need to. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was just gonna. I mean, that is still very young for a goalkeeper. For any other position, you think that maybe they don't have as much time, but for a goalkeeper, 23 is nothing. So, I think you're right. I think he needs game time. But the other thing I was just going to add as well is that he wasn't exactly helped by his defence today. It was pretty embarrassing at times, some of the defending from Lazio tonight. The one you mentioned, when he rushed out to kind of save Lazio with a slide tackle clearance. I mean, you should never be relying on your goalkeeper to save you in that position in the first place. And then the other 2 goals as well, it's just the defence completely deteriorated. I don't know where they all were for the second goal. And the third one, it's just a case of clearing from a corner, and not much Guerrieri can do about that. So on paper, he's conceded 3 goals on his debut, but it's not. I wouldn't blame him for the other 2, and I think the defence let him down a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though the first time he came out of the box, it was his mistake. He passed the ball wrongly to a Bologna player and had to recover, which he did, which is always positive, but it was his mistake. And it's a little bit unfortunate to allow 3 goals in your debut, especially against Bologna. It's not that you played against Juventus. But yeah, I mean, I said mixed emotion. I was really impressed in the first half. Not that much in the second, but I think he needs to play, and I think staying at Lazio and be the third option is not good for him. I think he needs to play.
Yeah, definitely. I think goalkeepers particularly, they won't get nearly as much out of training sessions as they will from games. Situations that you find yourselves in will be completely different. So, like I say, 23 is not very old. He's clearly got talent. He's clearly got potential. But he's not going to be a number 1 anytime soon. And at that age, it's got to be the best move for him, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Sheldrick is asking to you, can we say Rome is officially wetter than Scotland this season? The rain never seems to stop at the Olimpico, even deep in May.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my experience. I don't know if it's just literally because I moved here that this has started happening, but
you said it.
It's been absolutely relentless. I should say that there have been a lot of nice days as well, but they tend to be when Lazio aren't playing. So I think it's just a bit unlucky. And when it's bad in Rome, it's really bad. I think that's the main difference, is that, well, back in Scotland anyway, everything is kind of eternally miserable rather than particularly bad on any one day. So I think that's the main difference, is that when Rome rains, it really rains pretty hard. But yeah, I mean, I should say as well that I was actually quite impressed and surprised by the crowd today. I thought it was a good crowd that merited an end of season last final home game. Because on a Monday night when it's raining, I think you need something special to get people out of their houses. And a game against Bologna with almost nothing to play for isn't exactly that game.
No.
But I think there's a real feel-good atmosphere after the Coppa Italia win. So, yeah, it was good to see that a lot of people made the effort.
Yep. Keeping talking about the defense, I really loved the performance of Armini today. I thought I saw him in Primavera, and he's 1 year younger than all the others, so I thought maybe playing in the first squad would be too much. But no, it looks like he always had played there. I was really impressed.
Yeah, and I remember liking him when he plays in the Europa League as well. The thing is, I suppose, is he's one of these guys who, as soon as he stepped foot on the pitch, you could tell he really cares, and that should be the minimum requirement, I suppose, for a young player on his debut. But he looked very up for it. I think there was one occasion when I think a bit too much, so I think he wanted to really put in a kind of a big statement of a tackle and get the crowd on his side, and was occasionally mistiming or misjudging the situation a little bit because of that. But I think there's definitely promise there, and given that the defence is likely to be changed more than any other part of this team this summer, I'd be hopeful that he gets a few more chances. But we'll see. I mean, if Bastos keeps banging in goals into the top corner, then no one else has got a chance.
I don't think it's going to happen that much, to be honest with you.
Not until he's played as number 9 and his destiny can be fulfilled. And he wins the Ballon d'Or within a year, I'm telling you.
Absolutely, yeah. I see happening that, yep. But what I think is Armini could be, floating between Primavera and first squad this next year. I think Lazio should try to make him play in the first squad, because there where he can make bigger experience, he can improve more, and I think he's ready. Mentally he was focused, and that's the biggest jump, I think. It's not only physically, obviously, but even mentally, and I thought he was mentally ready, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, and like we've said a lot before, one of the good things about Inzaghi is his willingness to try out players, and he's not too bothered about whether there's public clamour for them to get a game or not. He'll play players when he thinks they're ready, and took his time with Neto and Jordao, and has given all sorts of Primavera players debuts, quite a few of whom have come into the first team, and Armini could be the next one. I mean, the next question there, I suppose, is about whether Inzaghi will be around to do that, but I don't know if you want to get onto that discussion yet, or save it for a bit later.
No, whenever you want. He didn't do the press conference tonight, right? And he didn't do the press conference pre-match that usually he do.
Yeah, which is always a good sign, isn't it?
So, I honestly, I don't understand. So, if he signed already for Juventus, why doesn't he speak? If he didn't, and there's nothing, or I don't know, why doesn't he speak anyway? And this is the club that didn't allow Inzaghi to talk yesterday. I don't know if tonight was the same situation, but I don't understand. I mean, if there's something, it's better than Inzaghi talk. If there's nothing, doesn't make sense not talking anyway. So I don't know. This is my point of view. I don't know yours.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised that he's not spoken around this match. I think that there seems to be something going on behind the scenes, because it was a real shame after the Coppa Italia final. We were in the press room waiting for the Inzaghi to come into the press conference for absolutely ages. I mean, he must have been quite rightly celebrating in the changing room and so on. And then when he did come in, I don't know, I was kind of expecting him to be soaked in champagne, big grin on his face, that kind of thing. But he was pretty kind of somber, actually. And I suppose that you can just say that's his manner in in these situations. But I think he used that. We talked about that last week, so we don't need to do that again. But he used this obviously as an opportunity to hit back at his critics a bit. But I think the difference has been that he's stopped kind of unconditionally committing his future to Lazio. We're not seeing him do that recently. And with speculation getting to the level it is, where all the major news outlets in Italy basically are saying that he is the number one, the club probably think they're protecting either him or themselves by keeping him away from the media, and they probably think that they're stopping the story from growing, because what that does is it means that Inzaghi can't comment on it, he can't answer questions on it, which means that newspapers can't publish as much about it. That's my only reckoning for why they've kept him out of these press conferences. I don't know, I mean, my first reaction was always that I thought I wouldn't be surprised if Inzaghi were to decide to take the offer, but I would be surprised if he was offered the job at all. I think that given Allegri's success at Juventus, I expected that they would be aiming a lot higher and going for one of the real elite coaches in world football, which they may well still do. I mean, this is far from wrapped up, but that's the thing that's confused me the most. I mean, it doesn't feel to me like a very good, very Juve-style move to do this, but at the same time, Inzaghi has very good relationships with Fabio Paratici, who he was at Piacenza with Pavel Nedved, who he's obviously at Lazio with. And those personal relationships can help, I suppose. And that's the thing that probably worries me the most right now, is that Inzaghi's not been saying the things we want to hear him say, and the kind of dots that everyone seems to be connecting do seem to connect. I don't know. Sorry, that was a very long answer to what you said, but what do you think?
Sorry, I fell asleep.
Very kind.
I am. No, honestly, I don't think he's the top priority. I don't really think that Juventus is going for Simone Inzaghi. I think big club have different option, and obviously, I think Inzaghi could be, the not the last option probably, but one of the third, fourth choice. So that's why he keeping the window open. But the thing is, Juventus is looking to win the Champions League. So does it make sense to take a manager who had never played had never managed a team playing the Champions League? Juve should be focusing, and I think they are, on managers who have performed well in the Champions League. Maybe have won it, or at least have played really well, or got the final, something like that. So that's why I think Tottenham manager is the top priority, and I think he is, and it's not Simone Inzaghi. But it's very easy in Italy to talk about Lazio players or managers leaving, not the same of talking about Inter manager or playing leaving and so on. So it's easier, but I really think that Inzaghi is not the top priority, and I think that Juventus already have contacted, and if they didn't close the deal, they're very close to sign the contract with a new manager.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think he's their top priority, but my worry is that I do think he's their plan B, and they will need a new coach one way or another. And the problem is that if you actually look through the plan A options that have been spoken about, how many of them are really attainable for Juve? I mean, Pochettino is the one that, like you say, it's the one that gives me the most hope, because Pochettino has suggested himself that he might be willing to leave. He's got links to Italy, family from Italy, and I think his brother or one of his relatives I saw today was talking about how happy he'd be to move to Italy. So that to me would be an appointment that makes a lot more sense as the next Juventus manager. But yeah, I mean, the thing that concerns me, like I say, is probably more that Inzaghi, I believe, from what I've been told, from what I've read, that he's definitely up there being considered, and that he's probably the next in line if their efforts to get someone bigger don't work out. So I think all we can really do is hope that they can get someone bigger, but when you actually look at the list of options, it's not huge. They're not going to get Guardiola or Klopp. Mourinho, I don't think they'd want, and I'm not sure he'd want them. You know, it's quite easy to name a lot of names, but when you go through them, you quite quickly find reasons that it might not happen, I suppose.
I don't know. I'm not so pessimistic. And anyway, you know, at the end, if Inzaghi leaves, it would be a shame because I thought he could have a big future with Lazio, and Lazio's building hopefully a better team. So yeah, I wouldn't be really happy if he leaves. Especially, I would be a little bit surprised for him leaving now. But at the end of the day, Lazio could find a better manager than Inzaghi. You know, the same Mihajlovic would be a good option, I think.
Do you think Mihajlovic should be an upgrade on Inzaghi?
Well, let's not forget that Inzaghi is the manager who played Wallace a lot of time. So, as I said, he makes mistakes. He's growing. I'm not sure he's, already top-level manager. He will become that probably, but he's not now.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I agree. That's why it surprised me that he's been talked about as much as he has as a Juventus coach. But no, I mean, I think it would be a really big blow to Lazio to lose him. But, you know, I suppose for now, I don't think we need to talk this to death because it's not going to go away until it's concluded one way or another. So, I don't know, our listeners probably don't want to hear us talking through it for an hour every week. So all we can do is really wait, I suppose, at this stage and see what happens.
Yep, absolutely. Other thing, if we're talking about transfer market, Milinkovic Savic has been asked, what's about your future? And he said, well, already last year you all telling me that I was leaving Lazio. I just renewed my contract. I'm here. We're going to see. I think those are very positive words.
Yeah, and look, the guy loves his life in Rome. I mean, that's always been very clear. I mean, last year at the time that all this speculation was going around, he went and spent over €1 million on a new house in Rome. So, I mean, I think that sometimes that can be underplayed. If you're in a good environment and you're happy in your personal life and things are kind of in place for you, that can play a big part in your decision. I think Milinkovic, the story is a lot different now, though, because his value will have dropped considerably this season because he's not been as good as he was. But now that he's officially the best player in Serie A,
best midfielder,
the best midfielder, in Serie A, maybe that adds a few more euros onto his price tag. But yeah, I don't really know what his market would be this summer anyway. I mean, whether his value, which will still be, I think, in the region of about 80 million euros, whether that's something clubs are going to be willing to pay after he's shown this season that he can't, or at least he hasn't consistently been at the level he was last season. So I think that I can see a set of circumstances where he ends up at Lazio again next season, because it's always a combination of economic and personal factors, and put those things together at the moment, and I would say he stays at Lazio, but who knows?
Alistair, were you shocked to see Milinkovic-Savic getting the prize as best midfielder of the year in Serie A? I was.
I think he would have been lucky to win a prize as best Lazio midfielder this season, let alone best midfielder in Serie A. No, I mean it's a bit ridiculous, to be honest, and that's something that everyone seems to be in agreement with. But they seem to be awarding this prize based on some sort of statistical algorithm, which coincidentally came out with Cristiano Ronaldo on top. And I suppose it just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you award your league prizes based on statistical data? Is it just because they can't be bothered watching the games? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, you find all sorts of stuff. If you go on whoscored.com, and they've got all these team of the weeks and statistically analyze the performance of every player, I mean, you'll find Domenico Crescito as basically the best defender in Serie A, as far as I remember. So, I mean, it doesn't, the numbers don't tell the whole story. Otherwise, us journalists would be out of a job, because everyone can just look up the data. But, it is what it is. I mean, it was quite funny, because he was presented with this prize before the game today, and obviously he wasn't even starting, so he was in his kind of substitutes gear on the pitch, and he was given this prize, and they announced it and put him up on the big screen, and he was standing there, to be honest, looking a bit embarrassed. He looked a bit sheepish about it, but I suppose the way I looked at it was that he may not have deserved it this season, but he deserved it last season, and it didn't exist last season, so we can just view it as that way. He's just picking it up a year late.
Yeah, makes sense. What else, Alistair, apart from the rain?
Well, I mean, we can do a proper season review later on, but
hey, there's still a match.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So there's no point in going through it all now. But all I wanted to ask you was how you feel now about the fact that going into the final game of the season, which for a while looked like it could be a Champions League playoff, and now it's a 7th place playoff. Yeah, it's a bit of an anticlimax, really.
Yep. Well, at least we don't have the same pressure of last year, and at least we want a title, Coppa Italia, which is probably more important than the Super Coppa Italia. So I would say, you don't have the pressure of last year, and I mean last year was heartbreaking. So from that point of view, it's better. But at the same way, it's a shame thinking that Lazio is not fighting for the Champions League and seeing Inter playing, Milan playing, Atalanta playing, and so on. And you think, well, come on, Lazio is at that level. It's incredible to believe that Lazio is not fighting for the Champions League, and those teams are.
The other thing I wanted to put past you, one of the more interesting points in the first half today was the Curva Nords bringing out a banner in support of De Rossi, paying tribute to him. This was quite a funny moment, really, because the Curva Nords put out this big banner and basically paying their respects to De Rossi before he leaves Roma. And then it was kind of whistled and booed by the rest of the crowd. And then when it went up on the big screen in the stadium and everyone could see it, almost the entire rest of the stadium booed it. And I can't really remember, certainly not this season anyway, another time I've seen the rest of the stadium turn on the Curva Nord like that. But I was just wanting to ask you what your feelings are on the Lazio ultras paying a tribute to, I suppose, a Roma legend.
I think it was classy, great way from Lazio, but you don't have to forget how De Rossi behaved against Lazio fan. I mean, he behaved badly a couple of times, but anyway, it would be good to see the same thing from the other side, but we never saw it and will never happen, I think. So I think that's the worst thing. I was surprised to see all those hear all the whistle. We could see it and it was terrible. But yeah, I mean it's not that bad, honestly. It's something that you can accept. I don't think it was so terrible. I don't understand all those whistle, to be honest with you. Alistair, are you still there? You mute? I think he unmute himself. Well, yeah, talking about De Rossi, yeah, I think he was classy from Lazio fan doing something like that. Again, I don't think we're never gonna see something happen from Roma fans, but you know, prove me wrong. Still, I thought didn't feel we had to do it, but you know, Lazio fan had to decide to do it, so I don't understand whistling for that. I mean, it's a good player, a good Italian player, who's leaving Roma in bad terms. I think Roma, Pallotta is doing a total disaster there, and yeah, this is just another example. By the way, Armini has spoken after the match. He said this was an unbelievable week. We won the Coppa Italia. Then the under-14 with my brother won the league, beating Roma in the final when there was Totti playing, obviously son of Totti. And then the Primavera, where I'm playing, won the playoff and is back in Serie A. So it was unbelievable. The third goal of Bologna, I don't know what the referee went to check, because the player hit me with an elbow, but the referee said it wasn't a foul. Inzaghi told me to keep me ready, and he called me 3 minutes before the beginning of the warm-up and said that I would have come in. So I couldn't believe it, but it was great. Yeah, maybe you don't know, Lazio under 14 won the league, and in the final Lazio played against Roma. This is getting a little bit repetitive, right? Every time Lazio plays in the final against Roma, they win in every league. And it was under 14, and there was Totti son there playing for Roma, and Corriere Sport already talking about the son of Totti, the new star, etc., etc. Lazio won 3-0, and in the Lazio team there was the brother of Armini. So, you know, everybody talking about the son of Totti, that good, etc. Well, maybe it's not that good, or maybe it's like his brother, his father, starting losing derby. Guys, I think we can wrap it up here. Alistair is under the water. So thank you for listening, and as usual, you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and if you want to support us, then there's patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Thank you very much, guys. Bye.
Watching